This is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield from the Lynn Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Michael provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is The Wealth Puzzle with Michael Mansfield.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm Mike Mansfield with the Lynn Group. Man, it has been a fascinating couple of weeks with economic data. Actually been rather surprising to watch. So we've been in kind of this wild tug of war for a long period of time now between the Federal Reserve and the administration on who's right, should rates be cut, what's going on with economics, what about refinancing debt, a lot of drama going on there. And as I mentioned a number of times in these videos, when you look at what the Federal Reserve's job is, when you go read their mandate from 1913, the whole idea of the Federal Reserve is to control two things. One is the price of goods via, say, inflation and simplicity, which is a big one, right? Because obviously we've been dealing with a lot of inflation. But then the second one, the more important one, is actually the labor market. And so as financial planners, as economists, even the Federal Reserve, they get together, they go through the data, they talk about it every 6 weeks. So here on the 17th, the Fed's going to come out and they're going to let us know what they're thinking here for September, which we'll touch on in a second. And so last month, what happens? The Fed comes out, they don't cut rates. The administration is kind of hooting and hollering that they need to be cutting rates. They're too late. They're behind the curve. Things are already changing. And then 2 days after the Federal Reserve's meeting where they announced no rate cuts, all of a sudden the Bureau of Labor Statistics comes out and revises the last few months of jobs down by over 300,000 jobs. And that was shocking data because we all said, and you can go check the tape even for myself, I said, wow, if the Feds had that information 2 days prior, they probably would have cut rates at the last meeting. But they didn't have it. And once again, we're all data dependent. Every decision that I make, everything that I look at is unemotional. It's based on the information in front of me. So we're looking at labor reports. We're looking at earnings reports. So if all of that data is flawed, that's very problematic when making decisions. So the administration then fires the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, basically saying, hey, man, you're not doing your job. You obviously this information is just really flawed. And this wasn't the first time. This has happened a number of times in the last number of years. And so that's been rather controversial. People have been debating, if the administration has the right to fire, the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then what happens? Like, holy guacamole. They come out just a couple days ago and say, also, we're revising the jobs down. Let me see if the article shows it. So they looked at from all of last year, from March to this following March, and they revised all the total jobs down by 911,000 jobs, almost 1 million jobs they accidentally had listed in the polls. So when you add what they did last month, plus that, the economy is somehow missing 1.2 million jobs in the last 16 months that are just missing. Those were all on the books. Those were all listed via the government as look how healthy the economy is. This was a massive reason why the Fed was doing what they were doing with holding rates where they were at, because their argument was, let's wait and see what happens with tariffs and inflation. The labor market is extremely tight and doing very well. Well, now we're finding out the hard way that the labor market is actually very soft and has a lot of problems. And they're still doing some revisions on this stuff. We're going to have now months, it looks like, where there's negative jobs growth. So pretty wild. So, just step one, we saw this come out, like I think it was yesterday, and it was just jaw dropping. I was pretty shocked by this. We've never seen the number this big. And so to lose almost another 1 million jobs in the last revision was shocking. So anyways, so you say, okay, let's fast forward to the idea now the Fed is having a meeting next week. Inflation, labor market. Well, their argument was, let's hold rates where they are because we weren't sure where inflation's going. And then the labor market was solid. Well, now the labor market's not solid. That thing's gone, right? that thing's toast at the moment. So that's a problem for the Fed mandate. That screams cut rates. And then you go back to the theme of, well, wait a second, what about inflation? What about tariffs? Prices are supposed to be going up. And we've had a couple data points here in the last month where inflation was showing problematic. Well, that was until this morning. And so the preferred gauge that the Fed uses, the producer price index, that comes out this morning, and it comes down with a decline in August. It went down 0.1%. And I know it's hard to see in these articles, but the estimate for this month's inflation read was that it would increase 0.3%. Instead, it fell 0.1%. Once again, it's the complete opposite of what everyone was expecting. Everybody thought we had just re-entered this inflationary moment, and the heat is on and prices are rising. And boom, in August, the producer price index fell. Once again, this is a favorable gauge that the Feds look at. And so now remember the Fed mandate, right? Prices, labor just fell apart. Prices are stable at the moment. So all of a sudden, now it really does look like the Fed is probably too late. In fact, when I come over here to this CME Fed Rate Watch tool where they track the probability of rate cuts, it's pretty amazing, right? If we come look at here, I'm on the September meeting. There's not even a bar. There should be a bar to the right of this tall blue one that says 4.25 to 4.5, meaning where we're currently at. There is a 0% probability now. 0. And we go through these a lot. I very rarely offer you the 0 scenario, right? We have a 0% probability that they're keeping the rates the same. So there's a 90% chance that they're at least doing a 1/4 point cut. And now there's a 10% chance that they're doing a 1/2 point cut, something a little more dramatic, which is amazing. Not that that's a big probability, but, a week ago, there was a 0% chance they were doing a 1/2 point. And now all of a sudden it's leading there. As all this data keeps evolving, you go to October, 1 month out, there's a 75, plus the other one, there's a 75% chance that we've done somewhere between a 1/2 and a 3/4 point cut on rates. I mean, that's pretty shocking. So all of a sudden, the data is moving every which way. It will be really interesting to get to next week to see what the Fed has to say, to see if obviously these probabilities are accurate. They generally are, certainly the closer that we get. It is feeling like the Fed probably should have been cutting interest rates sooner because of that poor jobs data that we have, where the Bureau of Labor Statistics is just so far askew from reality on what the data is. I see here on the news right now as I'm sitting here, the Labor Department just opened an investigation into the Bureau of Labor Statistics to figure out why is this data always so screwed up. So pretty wild. Now, positive note, though, I wanted to wrap up earnings seasons. I try to touch on this. So we just finished up second quarter earnings. And, year over year, second quarter earnings, it's kind of hard to see here on the right side of the page maybe, is they were up almost 12%. That's pretty awesome. That's a really great double-digit, third straight quarter of double-digit growth. Remember, 3/4 almost of our economy is consumer spending money. That means people are out spending money. Should they be? I don't know. Specifically, communication services year over year, their growth is up 46%. So they're just crushing it at the moment, all that technology stuff. 50 companies from the S&P 500 issued positive guidance. That doesn't sound like the biggest number, only 10%, but that's actually above the 5 and 10-year average for how many companies are that go very distinctly with offering a positive outlook. So that was really good. Everybody's still talking about tariffs. 340 companies out of the 503 companies in the S&P 500 chitty-chatted about tariffs. So there's a lot going on here. But earnings are good. Earnings were solid. The projections are still positive for the end of the year. So there's optimism. So we go to the theme. And the theme is, yes, the stock market is at all-time highs. Yes, there's a lot of hinkiness with geopolitical stuff creeping up again, a lot of drama in the headlines. Obviously, the Supreme Court is now evaluating the legitimacy of President Trump's tariffs. That would be extremely problematic if that doesn't, play to the administration's hand, simply because they've already negotiated, they've already made deals, we're already halfway through the boxing match. So to completely undo that would really derail that process. So we'll certainly see what that means and bring you the data on that as it comes. But yeah, everybody just kind of sit on your hands. We got to get to this Fed meeting next week and we will see what happens. But yeah, pretty wild time. So any case, if anyone has any questions, thoughts, concerns, curiosities, give the office a call, 805-500-7035. You can visit our main website, thelindgroup.com. Otherwise, we really appreciate everybody viewing and watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Take it easy.